Here are 50 Chinese words that will make native speakers see you as far more than just the average Chinese learner. We're going to jump straight in to number one with 我也是醉了, or literally, I am also drunk. 我也是 is I am also 醉了, or 醉, this character means drunk. So I am also drunk, and what that expresses is I am speechless. So this originally dates back to 2012, where there was a video that went viral with a narrator of a game called League of Legends, making fun of a really bad player on a team. And the player was playing so bad that the narrator said, 我也是醉了, like, I'm also drunk, assuming that that person playing is just at home drunk and not really knowing what they're doing. So it's a way of just saying if someone does something crazy or silly or this situation is just mad, it's a way of saying, I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless. 我也是醉了. So usually I see it as when someone does something silly or ridiculous, such as this example. 他居然忘了今天考试. He actually forgot today is the exam. 我也是醉了. I am speechless. So 居然 is a good way of emphasizing this as well. 居然 is a word that's like, he actually did this. I can't believe it, you know. 他居然忘了今天考试，我也是醉了. So you could actually replace this 我也是醉了 with a more, let's say, standard Chinese word of 无语. 我无语了. 我无语了. I am speechless. 无. So take these two characters. 无 means nothing or no, and 语 means speech. I know speech, 了. And of course that 了 is just an indication of a change of state. Something has occurred. So go ahead and use 我无语了 or 我也是醉了 interchangeably. The next one is 搞定了. So 搞 means to do, and 定 essentially means a few things, but in this context, it means settled or to settle something. And this is a verb result kind of word structure, this one. So it's saying I did something until it was settled. This matter has been done, sorted, settled, nailed. Like most of the examples in this video, this is more of a sort of slang word. And 搞定 is like a very broad usage of anything that's been sorted out, whether it's a document. So 文件已经搞定了. Or if you just got off the phone and you've booked a table, 搞定了, you know, whatever it is, you could just use this word to indicate sorted, settled in most situations. And I guess the closest thing to it would be something like 完成了, which means completed. So 文件已经完成了. But it sounds a bit more smooth and casual and cool to say 搞定了. Fun fact, 搞定了 actually came from Cantonese originally. Next up, 没门. Mei means no, and mer means door. So no door. So the original word was 没门, and this is like a sort of northern Beijing kind of thing that makes things more casual. So 没门 is like the most common way of saying it out loud. But 没门 is the original, and it comes from a Ming Dynasty novel where a lady was refusing a man's intentions to start a relationship with her. She said, no door. And that was the first time it was used a long, long time ago. And it means no way, not a chance. So, for example, 你想借车? 没门. Like, you want to borrow the car? No way. And you could replace this word 没门 with 不行, 不行, which also means like no way, absolutely no chance. 不行. 行 means a few different things, but it means essentially here to travel. And 不, of course, means no. So it's like no travel, like you can't go past this point. 不行. Now, while we're on the subject of whether doors exist or not and the words that they create in Chinese, here's a very similar looking word to the one we just looked at, but with a very different meaning. So 有 means to have, and 门路. So usually 路 is a fourth tone, but in this context, it's spoken as a fifth tone, right? So 门路, 门路. Literally door and road or path. door road, door path. What 门路 actually means, door road or door path, is a way of doing something, a knack of doing something. And it also refers to social connections, or 关系, as they refer to that in China, which is incredibly important. And that is related because if you do have connections or 关系 in China, that will allow you to do all sorts of things. That will open a lot of 门, a lot of door for you, and a lot of 路, roads for you. So this word 有门路 essentially means I have connections or I have a way of getting something done. 他在公司里有门路. So in the company, he has 门路. In this context, referring to connections within the company. 所以 therefore 很容易就升职了. So he got promoted easily. 升职 is promoted. So I've mentioned 关系, or relationship connections. Huge thing in China. Maybe I'll mention that in more detail in another video. But what you can actually do here is replace the word 有门路 with 有关系. And it's basically the same meaning. So 他在公司里有关系, 所以很容易就升职了. Next is 靠谱. 靠 means it's basically close to. It literally is lean against, but in this sort of abstract sense, it means like close to or aligned with. And 谱 means musical score. So the original word was 离谱, and 离 means to leave. So it's like saying leaving the musical score. So 靠谱 came in after this as a way of saying, this person has not left the musical score. This person is very closely aligned with the musical score. And what it's trying to say is reliable or trustworthy. So 他是个很靠谱的人. He is a very reliable person or trustworthy person. 你可以信任他. You can trust him. And we could replace this with the, again, more standard Chinese word, the less sort of slang word of 可靠. So 可靠, 可 means can, and 靠 means lean on or be aligned with, basically rely on. Another word, well, technically this is more like a phrase, is 你忙你的, which means 你, you, 忙, busy, and 你的 is yours. You busy yours. You busy yours, which means you do your thing or carry on with what you're doing. 我还有点事要做，你忙你的吧. That one's really straightforward. It's just a really casual, really slang, native sounding way of like, hey, get on with what you're doing. I'll be over here doing my thing. You go ahead and do your thing. This next one, 吃土. 吃 is eat, and 土 means dirt. Right? To eat dirt, it basically means broke. This originally came from a manga comic of a character, this girl eating dirt at a shrine, because she didn't have money for food. Then it became famous by cosplayers who were referring to that manga as saying, I spent all my money on my cosplay uniform and now I can't afford to eat. So I'm 吃土. I am going to eat dirt instead. And then it just became this general word for being broke, but specifically because of the fact that you've been silly with money and spent it on shopping, right? So for example, 这个月花太多钱了. This month I've spent too much money. 我要吃土了. I'm gonna have to eat dirt. I'm gonna be broke this month. Another way of saying it is 没钱, 我没钱了. Like instead of I'm eating dirt. But remember, 没钱 is more of a broad, just generally I have no money. 吃土 is more of a sort of a humorous way of saying specifically because I've been silly with my money and I've spent it on a bunch of silly things. Next one is 有空再说. So 有空means have space, literally. 空 means space, as in 空间, space, but it's also used to refer to spare time. So 有 spare time, when I have spare time, 再说 means 再 is again, and 说 means speak. So have space, again speak, means let's talk when we have time. 我现在有点忙. I'm right now a little busy. 有空再说吧. It's really common with this particular word to add in a ba at the end. 有空再说 by itself might be a little bit abrupt, maybe even slightly rude. 有空再说吧, right? That ba is kind of a suggestion, adding a suggestive tone to it. Let's talk when we have time. 有空再说吧. And this 说, this character 说 can actually be replaced with another one, 聊, meaning chat. Let's chat when we have time. 有空再聊. The next word here is 躺平. And I really love this word because I was personally had this word explained to me by a Chinese couple. And it took them about 10 minutes to fully explain with me asking so it means this. No, it doesn't quite mean that. What? So it means this? No, not quite. It means this. And then I eventually understood it. And the reason why it took me a while to understand is because it is a fairly uniquely Chinese or at least Asian sort of concept right now. And it's to do with Chinese culture or Asian culture. Again, I say Asian because I'm not honestly sure if it exists in Korea or Japan, but I know these cultures share similarities, so I assume that it may. What the word actually means is laid back. Tang means to lie down. And ping means level, like, or flat. So it's literally to lie down flat. So in China, and again, a lot of Asia, there's a lot of high pressure jobs. You've probably heard of like Koreans or Japanese people like just passing away on the subway due to high stress. And in China, it's very similar, you know. As well as that, there's the family pressure to get married and have children. And then once you have children, you have to take care of the kids and you have to take care of your parents, you know. So there's all this pressure in modern Chinese society to do all this stuff. So instead of doing all this stuff that society kind of expects of them, young Chinese people nowadays, or relatively young Chinese people, are just sort of opting out of standard society. It's like, no, I'm not going to try and work hard at my job so I can get promoted because I don't get paid enough anyway. It's much more worthwhile to me just to lower my cost of living and just 躺平, just lie down flat, make enough money just to get by, you know, play some computer games, not even going to谈恋爱. I'm not even going to date or look for a wife or a husband or try and have kids like society has molded me to do. I'm not going to do any of that. And that makes sense to me why people do that in China. I can completely understand why more and more people are opting for this style of life. I mean, let's put it this way, right? In the West, you know, we have 9 to 5. 5 days a week. Well, in China, they have 996 or 996, which is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. That's like the average work week. And on top of that, if you work for a job, you're expected by your boss not only to be available at all hours, you know, just even on weekends, when you have your one day off, you know, still respond to text messages and emails and things like that. If you want a chance at being promoted and get an extra, you know, few hundred RMB a month, but you also are expected to do things like go out and get drunk, you know, sacrifice your health to hang out with your boss whenever he or she wants you to, and also go out with customers and do the same. And, you know, it's a huge sacrifice for very little payoff for a lot of people. And so they would rather 躺平, avoid the job pressure, avoid the child marriage pressure, and just escape into their little world. So that is a little insight into Chinese culture for you and the word 躺平. Let's have a quick look at 躺平 in a sentence before we move on. 现在很多年轻人 these days or nowadays or just now 现在很多年轻人 lots of young people 选择 are choosing 躺平. 不再 means not again. 拼命. We'll come across that in another word later. Basically means going all out. 追求 going after, striving for. 高薪 high salary work 工作. Instead, they are lying flat. The next word is 什么鬼. Literally, this word 什么 means what, and 鬼 means ghost. So what ghost? So the word actually means what the heck? And it came from a viral video of a TV show of a man saying, 你在搞什么鬼? 搞什么鬼? So 搞 is a character that we covered earlier, meaning to do. 搞什么 means do what? Like, what are you up to? What are you doing? And 搞什么鬼 is essentially a way of just saying, what the heck are you doing? They added that 鬼 on the end. So if you want to say, what is this thing? You just say, 这是什么? This is what. But if you want to say like, what the heck? Like, what is this? Like, you want to express that kind of like, I am lost. I am lost for words. I am 无语 as for what this could possibly be. Then you would say, 什么鬼? Just add in that 鬼 instead. So here's a couple of examples in the way it's used commonly these days. So, 这是什么鬼天气? What the heck is this weather about? 一下雨,一下晴. One moment it's raining, sunny the next. 这是什么鬼地方? So what the heck is this place? So 地方 means place. 这是什么鬼地方? 这么脏. Like, what the heck is this place? It's so dirty. The next one is 扯淡. So 扯 means to tug. And 淡 means bland. Tug until something is bland. The meaning is BS, right? Nonsense. Stop talking nonsense. 别扯淡. And it's basically, this 淡 means bland. So what this is saying is something was originally 浓. 浓 means sort of dense and thick with, say, information or value. And then you've pulled it until it is bland and worthless. Okay. So for example, 这完全是, this is completely BS, 扯淡. And if you want, you can actually just remove this character, 淡, and just say, 扯,这太扯了吧. Right? This is to pull. 别扯了. Stop talking nonsense. 别扯了. 没人会相信你的话. No one will believe you. Feel free to add in the 淡 here if you like, or remove it. Totally up to you. And while we're on the subject of 扯, pulling stuff, you can also say 瞎扯. 瞎 here means blind. As in can't see. And of course, 扯 means to pull. So again, it means talking nonsense, but it's just another way of doing it. So you're just blindly saying BS. 他根本不知道真相. He doesn't know the truth at all. And of course, you can replace 瞎扯 with the one we just learned, 扯淡. Both are great. Love 扯, by the way. That's why I'm using it in the third example here. 太扯了. That's ridiculous. 他说他能一天读完这本书. 太扯了. And you can also add a 吧 on the end. It's like, isn't it? Like, 太扯了吧. The next one is 显摆. 显摆. 显 means appear. And 摆 can mean a few different things. The original character is a third tone, 摆, but pronounced here as a fifth tone. And it means a few things. It can mean put on display. And it's also used in the word 摇摆, meaning to shake or move your body. And the meaning it provides is bragging or show off. So here's an example. 他总是喜欢在别人面前.他总是喜欢 likes 在别人面前 in front of people 显摆自己有多少钱. 自己 himself has how much money. He likes to show how much money he has in front of others. Another word for 显摆 is 炫耀, which is also show off. And those could be interchangeable. This next word, although very common and rather simple, can impress Chinese people if you use it in the right way, right? So 开玩笑, there's a very low level word. You learn it quite early on in your study. It means, well, literally open. And 玩笑 means joke. And that's how you say to tell a joke or play a joke, right? Or 开玩笑. And if you say 开玩笑的, it means, oh, just kidding. Or you could just say 开玩笑, right? Without the de. It's fine. And it's just a Chinese thing, I guess. Usually when we tell a joke in England, say, I mean, British people have a very unique sense of humor, but like generally speaking, Western humor, if you say a joke, people know it's a joke. You'd have to say, oh, that was a joke, right? But in China, they don't have this sort of irony or sarcasm or satire as much as we do. And it's a very good idea that if you are being, just generally don't be sarcastic. I mean, it's not a very good trait to be. Don't be sarcastic, or sarky, as my mum says, don't be sarky. But like generally speaking, if you are going to be sarcastic, or you're being ironic or whatever, or satirical in what you're saying, you're just pretending to say something, but it's actually a joke, it may not always be understood. It will be very rarely understood, actually, unless you make it quite clear. Now, you make it quite clear with your facial expressions in China, but a good way, if you do make fun of someone or, say something that isn't true on purpose for humorous effect, it's a good idea to add this on the end. 开玩笑,开玩笑,开玩笑的, something like that just to signify it, and it'll make things clearer. Chinese people do have very good sense of humor, by the way. It's just not necessarily that kind of humor. 别生气,我只是, I'm just, or I'm only 开玩笑的. I was just kidding. 我只是开玩笑的. By the way, this example is not saying that if you tell a joke, Chinese people are going to be angry at you. It's just the way we wrote the example here. Next is 你牛, you cow. You cow. Now, if you said that in England, you cow, you'd be in big trouble. But 你牛, you cow means you are awesome, or you're cool. In fact, you can just forget about the ni if you want. Just leave that out and just say 牛. So what does 牛 mean awesome in Chinese? Well, it's a rather long and interesting story, actually, and hilarious. So 牛 comes from 牛逼, and B means vagina. So cow's vagina means awesome. And this actually originally came from 牛皮. So P means skin. Cow skin. And apparently it's a story from Mongolia. In Mongolia, they have this thing, it's like event that they have regularly, in which they make boats out of sheep skin, and they blow them up, and then they have like races across a river or something. And so one time a man said, I'm going to make a boat out of a cow skin, so it's bigger and stronger, and I'm going to beat you all. And he did that, and he couldn't blow it up. He failed miserably. So the pronunciation 牛皮 turned into 牛逼, which then got the character for vagina, which has that pronunciation of B added to it. And then 牛逼 became the representation of awesomeness, but not in a making fun of you, Abe, in a general, like, you are 牛逼, you are awesome. And of course, it's very vulgar, rather vulgar. So most of the time, especially when around children or people older than you, or in a more formal setting, you'll just say 牛, 你牛, or 牛牛牛, to represent the idea of awesome or cool. And of course, related to this is another word, 吹牛, blow the cow. And this comes from the original story too. So to 吹牛means to blow the cow, or blow up the cow skin, trying to win the sheepskin boat race. And it means to brag. So 他总是在吹牛, he's always blowing the cow, 说他多么厉害, saying how 厉害 he is, how great he is. That brings us nicely onto the next word, 太厉害了. So impressive or amazing. So 厉害 means amazing, impressive, but 太厉害了. This 太 and 了 are sort of a match made in heaven. They usually come together. So 太什么什么了, 太厉害了. 他会说这么多语言. He can speak so many languages. 太厉害了. Another word for 厉害 or 太厉害了 is 了不起 or 真了不起. That also sounds great. Go ahead and throw that in as well if you like. Next one is 有戏, literally have game. No, it doesn't mean got game as in like, how to talk to women, that kind of game. Literally a game. So to have a game is to have hope. 有戏 is like saying there's hope or something is promising. 这次项目看起来 this project looks 有戏. 看起来有戏 looks promising. 我们要加把劲. So 加把劲, this is the full word. 加把劲. It's actually should have made it onto the list of this 50, but I didn't want to make it 51. So 加把劲 is also really cool to use. A more common version of this would be 加油. 加油. to add oil, right? That's the most common way of saying, go on, you can do it. But 加把劲 is like, give it our all. Well, we have to do our best or go that extra mile. So it's a more specific usage of the 加油 thing, which is more of a general sort of, go on, you can do it. It can be used in this context, but 加把劲 is specifically for like, give that extra effort to achieve a goal of some kind. And as well as 有戏, to have hope, we can also say 没戏, which means no, or like no have, doesn't have game. Right? There is no game. Kind of like saying 没门 or 没门, right? No door, like we talked about earlier. 他们想赢得比赛，没戏. They want to win the competition? No chance. 不见不散. Now, I heard this so much when I was listening to my podcast in Chinese. Someone narrating the podcast would say, see you next week. 不见不散. So what this is saying is, no, see, no, san is kind of like the word disperse. No see, no disperse. Don't leave until we meet. So you're waiting there for me, say at some place that we're meeting. If you don't see me, don't just leave, right? Just stay there literally until I'm there. Do not san, do not disperse. 明晚7点在老地方见. So this 再见, this 在 is a different 在 from 再见, which means goodbye in Chinese. 再见 is literally at or located at a place. See. So you can say 在 and then add in any location that you like. 见. So 在图书馆, library, 见, for example. And here they say 在老地方. 老地方is like the old place, as in like the place that me and you both usually go. 不见不散. Don't leave until we meet. 跟你说 is another really good sort of slang style Chinese word that will impress natives. So it's literally with you speak. Let me tell you. So if you're talking to someone, you're about to give them a story or an opinion about something. If you add in 跟你说, it's like saying, I'm telling you, right? It's like a way of sort of casually telling a story or sharing something. 跟你说,这家餐厅的菜真的很好吃. So if you just said that without the 跟你说, it'd be fine, right? But 跟你说 is just a way of making it more native, more like, hey, I'm telling you this, right? The food at this restaurant is amazing, you know. Another sort of version of this 跟你说 would be 告诉你, right? Telling you or tell you. But I would say that for me personally, 告诉你 just by itself is, I usually hear it with the Beijing accent. It just sounds really cool, where they wouldn't say 告诉你, they would say 告诉你. 告诉你啊, 告诉你. And often it's used in a sort of finger wagging, sort of like angry way, just in my personal experience. But feel free to use 告诉你, I tell you, as well as 跟你说. Next is 不愧是. So at Mandarin Blueprint, we don't do tone changes. So this is actually spoken like this, 不愧, 不愧. But we like to present pinyin as it's actually going to be in real life, so you don't get thrown off when you have come across real world pinyin and get confused. But that's just one of the tone change rules that exists in Chinese. Thankfully, there's not many of them. So 不愧是, 不 we know means no. 愧 means ashamed. And of course, 是 means to be. Not ashamed to be. But the real meaning actually is no wonder or deservedly so. So this one, 不愧是, is a way of sort of complimenting people. So, no wonder you're this awesome. It's because of your awesomeness, right? So here's an example. 他不愧是我们公司的销售冠军, selling champion, right? 每个月业绩 is like achievements in business. 都很高. So it's like saying, no wonder he is the sales champion. Of course he's the sales champion. I mean, his performance is excellent every month. Here's a word that you could use to replace it. 难怪. Nan means hard or difficult. And 怪 means blame. And this one is, I'd say, more common, but 不愧是 is a little bit less common, but also would impress people. This next one, 好家伙, I've only personally heard it in things like 评书 or 相声. It's like a Chinese thing where 评书, for example, is where a really charismatic, articulate, funny like storyteller will sit there and tell a story. And that's it. That's just a form of entertainment. 郭德纲 is probably the best one in the entire, I was say in the entire world, but it's really only a Chinese thing. So all of China. And 相声 is where you have two people usually, and they're like sort of riffing off each other. It's a very traditional form of entertainment, and it is hilarious if you can understand what the heck they're saying. But 好家伙 is more of a northern thing, I guess. And it's a way of saying, wow, or good grief. 家伙 means essentially just guy. So it's saying, and 好 means good. What it means is good grief, essentially. 好家伙，这么大的鱼，你是怎么抓到的? If you want to say wow, you just add it in. 好家伙. A more common way of expressing this would just be, 哇，这么大的鱼. This next one, be careful with. 去你的. Literally, go 你的. Go yours. I guess you could say up yours would be pretty darn close translation for this one. Get lost. I would say it's quite a bit stronger than get lost though. So strong get lost is pretty close to FU, I would say. But you can use it in a friendly way. Depends on how you use it, right? Neale 在开玩笑，去你的. Are you joking again? Get lost. Leave me alone. 你行你上. Now we talked earlier about 不行, right? Meaning no way. That 行, again, means literally travel, right? But when you see it in words like this, often what it actually means is got this or is possible. If you're possible, so this is, 你 is you, right? So you, possible, you, 上, which means up, right? The meaning of this one is if you're so good, you do it. 你行你上. So you possible, you up. Up as in, like, let's say, get up on the stage, for example, like go ahead and do it, right? You're up. 你觉得这么简单? You think it's so simple? 你行你上, right? So that's the kind of connotation, the attitude behind this particular word. A more common sort of way of saying it would be 你来试试. 你来试试. So 来 means to come, and 试试 means try or have a try. So you think it's so easy? 你来试试, 你行你上. Now, if you've been learning Chinese for any length of time, you most likely would have already learned this one, 有意思, and it means interesting. Literally, have 意思, 有意思, have meaning. That's a very simple, low-level definition of this, but there's another usage of it, which is that of romantic feelings or mutual affection. Of course, you could just say, this movie is interesting. 这部电影, 它对你, 对 here is kind of like, well, it literally means to face someone. But here it's like the abstract towards you. I'm aiming some sort of emotion towards you. So 他对你有意思, it means he has feelings for you. If I towards you am interesting, then I have feelings for you, as in more of a romantic way. I fancy you, as it would be. 你真的没有看出来吗? 看出来, 看出来. Literally, look, come out. That's to notice. And while we're on the subject of 意思, let's go for another one that's related to this. Of course, we know 有意思, interesting, but you can dress it up a little and stand out a little bit as well and come across as a bit more impressive by saying 有点儿意思, kind of interesting, has a little meaning. 这个电影有点意思. So instead of saying 这部电影有意思, 这部电影有点意思. It's like, this movie is kind of interesting. I remember I can 包饺子, dumplings, I can wrap them. I learned how to do it, but I wrap them in a weird way. Maybe it's to do with being left-handed. I don't know. But I sort of wrap them in an S shape. So the dumpling, instead of just being a nice curve, it's like an S. And Chinese, especially older Chinese people who haven't really had much contact with foreigners, which is almost all of them, tend to just love it. They find it fascinating. And I got this from a friend of ours, last Chinese New Year, and I was there bowing my dumplings. And the dad just came up to me and said repeatedly, 有点意思, 有点意思. So they're watching me for about 10 minutes, just going, 有点意思. As I was trying to like wrap up these dumplings. The closest word to 有点意思 or 有意思, by the way, would be 有趣, right? So that's another way of saying interesting, but in a slightly different way. Got another 意思 word for you. 小意思. Small meaning. Small meaning. This does two main things. It expresses the idea of, piece of cake. That was easy. 小意思, small meaning. It could also be something you say to, as a way of humbling yourself when you give gifts. I'll show you what I mean. So, 这点工作对我来说, this little bit of work for me, 对我来说, 小意思. This is nothing for me. This is a piece of cake for me. 对我来说, for me, 小意思. 这盒蛋糕, this box of cake, 是我一点小意思. This is my little meaning. Right? It's a great way of being humble when you give a gift in China. So I highly recommend that you remember this phrase. 这是我一点小意思. 一点小意思. 希望你喜欢. I hope you like it. This is a great phrase to remember. Now, all of them are, but this example sentence specifically, it's a good one to keep in mind. 没劲 means boring or no fun. 没, of course, means no. And this character, 劲, means a few different things. It could mean strength. It's probably the most common way. Or it could mean vigor or spirit, vitality behind something. And it's often used with the pronunciation. So it will often be pronounced 没劲儿, but 没劲 is absolutely fine too. Boring or no fun. 这个游戏太没劲了. There's no strength to this game. It's just like there's no oomph, as we would say in England. 我不想玩了. 我不想玩了. Yeah, I don't want to play anymore. This game is boring. 太没劲了. So boring. So another way of just saying 没劲 is 无聊. That's the standard way, just boring. But 没劲 will make you a little bit different. Next one, 走着瞧. 走着瞧. Wait and see. So 走着, this 着 means essentially walking. And the 着 particle is often referring to things happening right now while something else is happening. It allows you to say that. So while I'm walking, so really, while walking, look, have a look, 瞧. And what this means is wait and see. 你说我做不到. You say I can't do it. 走着瞧, wait and see. Next one, 够呛. So 够 means enough. And 呛 basically means to choke, right? So enough choke. 够呛. You'll often use 呛, this word, when there's cooking in a kitchen or something like that, and it's just so strong, the smell, that you have to get out of the kitchen. It's like, I can't even breathe. Often you get this when people cook Sichuan Cai, like Sichuan food. It's so spicy and oily that it's like, it literally makes you cough and choke. You have to get out of the kitchen unless you're used to it. 够呛 is a way of saying that's tough, or it's tough to say. So let me give you some examples. 这次比赛我们能赢吗? Can we win this competition? 够呛. It's basically like saying 很难说. It's difficult to speak, or literally difficult to say. It's hard to say. And generally speaking, 够呛 can just be tough as well, like enough choke, right? It just means something's tough to deal with. So 最近的工作压力很大. 工作压力 is like work pressure. 很大 is very big. 感觉生活 life 真的够呛. 真的 is really 够呛, tough. 开眼界 is a great one. 开 we already established means to open, and 眼界, 眼 means eye, and 界 means kind of like world. And as with most Chinese compound words, it's really logical. Together, this means kind of like horizons, but in terms of the abstract sense. So what it's saying is to open or broaden one's horizons. 这次旅行真是开眼界. This trip was really eye-opening. 我学到了很多新东西. I learned a lot of new things. I love this one. 凑合吧. 凑合 or 凑合. Sometimes this one is pronounced as 活, 凑合 or 凑合. This is a very common kind of Chinese compound word called a verb result. So this first word, 凑, means to lean in close or get close. And 合 means to shut. So what it's saying is you're just a little bit off, but you close that last gap at the end. So what this means is to make do, or it'll do, or it's okay. So for example, 这顿饭做得不怎么样，不过凑合吧. Right? This meal isn't that great, but it'll do. Let's just deal with it. Let's just make do. Let's fill that gap. Let's 凑合 or 凑合. Another word for this is 将就. 将就. That's another word that you could use to replace this. 你懂的. All right. So 懂 means to understand. 你, of course, means you. And this 的 here is the most common character in the entire language, and it does a few different things. Here, what it's doing is replacing sort of missing or hidden context in the word. So what it's replacing here is 你懂我的意思, like you understand what I'm saying, or you understand the situation. When you say 你懂的, you're saying, you know what I mean. Right? 你懂的. So there's a very long sentence here. 你昨天晚上的行为有点过火. 过火 means over the top. 过分 is another way of saying that. 今天最好别再提起这件事. Best not to bring this up again. You know what I mean. So basically like, you know what I'm saying. I'm going to be very, very angry with you and we're going to have a problem. All right. So it could also be used, I've heard 你懂的 used in a kind of like a flirty way, you know what I'm saying. So, feel free to experiment with that. Next is 有一套. So here's that 有 again, one of the most common characters in the entire language, of course, means to have. 一 means one, as in the number one, or a. And then we've got 套 is like a set of something. But when you say 套 here, what you're referring to is kind of like a set of skills. So for example, 他在编程方面, that's programming, 编程确实有一套. So in the area of, so that 方面 is saying like in the area of the thing I just said, 他在编程方面确实有一套. Like he's got skills when it comes to, programming. 你说呢? You say, you say, and this 呢 is just like, what about the thing I just said? 你说呢? It's almost like, well, it depends on how you use it. It could be like a inquisitive, like sort of polite way of saying, oh, what do you think? Or what are you saying? Or it could be like, what about you? What do you have to say? So 你说呢 is like, what do you think? Or you're cool. Another way of saying this is 你怎么看? You, how look? 你怎么看? 你说呢? What do you think? 不怎么样. 不怎么样. Again, most of us, if we've been learning Chinese for a little while, even like a few weeks, we've probably heard of 怎么样, which means like how about. When you say 不怎么样, like not how about, it's a very different meaning. Not that great. 那部电影不怎么样. So you can ask someone, for example, 那部电影怎么样? Like, how is that movie? And you could just say 不怎么样. Like, that's no, what about, how about. It's not that great at all. It's just like saying 不太好. Another one with 怎么样, it's very useful, very colloquial as well, is 那又怎么样? 又 here is often used to mean like, oh, you've done that again. 你又 done that thing that I don't like. Right? It's kind of a negative thing. But here, what it's doing is turning how about 怎么样 into so what 那又怎么样 right so what 他不喜欢我们那又怎么样 he doesn't like us so what another one 不见得不见得不 again you know what that means by now and 见 means to see so what you're seeing here is not necessarily and this de here is more like I'm not sure exactly what it means in this context but one of the contexts it has is to obtain. That's when it has a second tone. So it's like, I'm not obtaining any seeing from this. I'm not seeing anything from this. It's like, not necessarily. Sometimes if my etymology for these words or characters is off, I don't really think it matters as long as it helps me remember the word. So I would use obtain in this sense to sort of remember what the word means, to sort of create a mnemonic for the word to help me learn. I don't need to make sure that it's 100% accurate, if that makes sense. Now, everything I've shared with you so far in this video has been accurate, but this is the one thing that so far I'm not 100% sure on, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So 不见得 is, that doesn't necessarily mean X. 他虽然很聪明 he's smart, or although he's smart, that 虽然 means although. 但不见得 that doesn't necessarily mean 能解决这个问题, that he can resolve this matter or solve this problem. So another way of saying 不见得 is 不一定. 一定 means for sure, definite. So 不一定 is not definite or not necessarily and not for sure. 别急,别急. 别 means don't. The full word for 别 is 不要, right? 不要, and then 急 means, I guess here means more like rushed. Or can also be panic, like 慌, panic. So don't rush, don't panic. 别急,我们还有很多时间. Don't rush, we still have plenty of time. And this is the full word, essentially. 不要着急. 别急 is just short for 不要着急. So 没辙, 没 means no, of course. And 辙 actually are the tracks left over by wheels in the dirt. Right? It's a very specific meaning. And it comes from ancient warring states period in China, a apparently true story of army tracking another army, and they were tracking by following the sort of grooves left in the dirt, the tracks left in the dirt by the carriages. Right? So the carriages carrying all the equipment and the troops, right? Then what this army did was switch to horses halfway through, and the other army reported back, 没辙了. 没车辙. So 车辙 is the full word, like car tracks. So they said, 没车辙了, 没辙了. I mean, no tracks left, we can't follow them anymore. So when you say 没辙, it's like, I have no solution to this problem. I have no way of going forward. Means no solution, no way out. 这个问题太复杂了. 我真的没辙. I've really no solution. This problem is too complicated. And you could replace this with 没办法. That's like the standard sort of way of saying there's no solution or no way out. But 没辙 is just like, you know, a bit cooler. So 真的假的. 真的 means real, and 假的 means fake. So it's a question. 真的假的? Real fake, real fake. Really? Are you serious? So 听说他要结婚了. 真的假的? Right? So it's a really colloquial way that Chinese people use all the time of just asking this question. Really? And the most standard way, the common way of saying this would just be 真的吗? Really? Ma? Ma is just the question mark, right? So that's also fine. But 真的假的? 真的假的 would be sort of like the, I guess you could say, more native way of saying it. 你又来了. So we've got that 又 again, sort of expressing something has happened again, but it's almost like annoying, or it's a problem. This has happened again kind of thing. Here you go again. So you, literally, you again come. And then of course the le, so indicating a change in state or something is completed. 你又来了. 每次都是这个借口. Here you go again. It's always the same excuse with you. You could replace this with 你又这样. 这样 means this appearance, or you've done this way again. You've done it again. Next is 没毛病. So 毛病means defect. It can be with a fourth tone as well. So it could be pronounced 没毛病 or 没毛病. Right, with the fifth tone. Either way works. And it means a defect, and you're saying no problem or all good. And this originally came from a relatively recent skit by a very famous Chinese comedian in one of the Spring Festival galas. It's like these really long TV shows they run over Chinese New Year. And it's just this hilarious like noodle sketch. And the waiter said, 没毛病 in a really funny way.
没毛病.
And it had this sort of, this happens a lot in China, and I guess everywhere, right? That's how things go viral and just become part of the pop culture. And ever since then, people will say 没毛病 instead of 没问题, meaning no problem, right? 没问题 is the standard sort of no problem, that's fine. And 这件事交给我没毛病, like leave this to me, I got it. 玩命 or 玩, again, we can use the r sort of sound, 玩命 if you want. To play, and ming is life. Like, as in my life. Risking your life or going all out. To play with your life, right? So, 他为了完成这个项目, in order to complete this project, 最近, recently, 一直在 has been like going, like doing something, like continuously. 玩命加班. So he's been like going all out with overtime, like playing with his life, not literally, but, you know, just going all out basically, in order to get this project done. And you could replace this with 拼命. 拼命 is very similar. 拼命加班. But 玩命 is just more playful, I guess, and a little bit more colloquial. This next one, 给力. Literally, give power. 给力. And apparently it came from the Chinese dub of a Japanese version of Journey to the West, where the Monkey King said it in a funny way or something. So 给力 means awesome or impressive. 这个新功能, this new feature, 功能 means feature. 真给力 is awesome. It gives so much power. Another way of just saying this is 棒. You know, that's just like the standard Chinese way of saying awesome or great. 真棒, 真给力 is just a more flavorful, colorful way of expressing the same thing. 早知道. 早知道. 早 means early, and 知道 means know or to know. If I had known earlier, right? 早知道你要来. If I had known earlier, you were coming, right? So just these three characters says a lot of words, right? 我就准备好了. 我就, it's like I would have prepared. 早知道你要来, 我就准备好了. I love this one. 别闹了. 别闹了. It's just so satisfying to say. 别, we covered already, means don't. And 闹 means, I guess, make a fuss, make trouble. I guess the most common meaning of it is to make noise. But in this context, it's kind of like, don't give me a hassle from this. Stop messing around, right? 别闹了, 赶紧做正事. Like 正事, 正 here is like correct, like get going with the real work, like get on with, do some serious work. Stop messing around and get to work. And let's finish it off with a very pleasant word, 神经病. 神经病, crazy. So 神经 is the word for nerve, and 病 means sickness or sick. So your nerves are sick. That's how you say someone has gone mental or crazy, right? 你居然敢那么做. There's that word 居然 again. It means actually. Like you actually dare to do that? I can't believe it. 真是神经病. You're crazy. And of course, the normal word for crazy is 疯狂,真是疯狂. But I would say 疯狂 is a little bit harsh. It's like the formal word for gone crazy. All right, so those are my 50 Chinese words and phrases that will impress the heck out of native speakers. Do not forget to click the link below and download the PDF and especially the audio files that come with this. These are non-AI, studio quality, male and female, amazing audio files of different kinds as well. You'll get a full explanation in the email that you get. Just download those to your device and practice them every day. Just a few every day and actually acquire what you've learned here in this video. I hope you find this useful. Go ahead and watch this one next, and I will see you there. Bye-bye.